Where were you before you came across all this information? What was life like? What were you going through at that time?
Yeah. Um, so 4 years ago, I was still a college student, and I just noticed I started having this chronic stomach pain. Like I said, was in college, so I kind of assumed it was probably just from stress or not sleeping as much as I should be sleeping, or not eating super well, lots of ramen and late night dinners and maybe some adult beverages, now and then. And so I just assumed like it was probably from any of those things. I also just didn't really have time or money to go see the doctor. So I just kind of let this chronic kind of stomach cramping and just kind of build up in my intestinal tract, just be my normal. Like I would be really bloated, and I would get, that pain you get when you haven't like had a bowel movement in a long time, or you just have gas pain building up. And so I just kind of let that be my normal and thought I'm just gonna have to wait this out until I'm done with school, and then I will have more time, to figure this out. And like I said, I didn't really notice the stomach pain after I ate anything specific. It was like I could be eating carrots or Cheetos or whatever it was. Like it just didn't seem to matter. I would always have this chronic pain. And so I just learned, I guess this is normal and just how it is, And so I just chalked up a lot of that situation to just being in college. Like I had really, really low energy all the time. Definitely days where like I just had to take a nap or two, or like I would get home from class, maybe it's 4 o'clock, and have people coming over later in the evening, and I would be like, I have to take a nap or I'm just not gonna make it through the evening. My sister calls it pulling an all-dayer when you go through a whole day without taking a nap. So I wasn't pulling a lot of all-dayers because I was just so tired all the time. I also definitely wouldn't sleep through the night. Like I would find myself waking up 5 or 6 times throughout the night, whether to go pee or I just was a really light sleeper and just would be waking up all the time. And then also just the chronic kind of stomach pain, cramping, bloating, and all those like super fun things. So that's kind of where I was at before I started my journey of trying to figure out like what was going on, what I could do to try to fix whatever was happening with my stomach and with my energy levels as well.
People, I am surprised to
Yeah.
hear, with how young you are that, you're experiencing a lot of the things that,
Yeah.
how are you trying to overcome this? Like at the time before you came across, it's like, what were you looking
Yeah.
for? What was that process like? What that look like?
Yeah. So it was a lot of trial and error for sure. And I never tried cutting out any specific foods because it was like I could be eating whatever and it was still hurting. And so I just tried like everything I could think of. I had read like a little bit online about like how your gut is like you should have a healthy gut and like that will help. And I was like, okay, well, whatever. So I tried taking like those little probiotic pills. I tried just going to sleep earlier and thought maybe I'm just like not sleeping enough and that's why I'm so exhausted all the time. So I'd go to sleep earlier, or like I said, take naps kind of throughout the day. I started intermittent fasting, so I would just not eat breakfast. And I still keep up with that today. I think that was a helpful habit for me personally that I picked up in this time, but I just thought maybe like my stomach just isn't ready to receive food like right when I get up in the morning. And so maybe if I just stop eating breakfast, like that will help. Definitely taking laxatives to try to induce some sort of bowel movement to like reduce the bloating and the pain I was having in my intestines. And yeah, nothing really seemed to help. Um, when I graduated from college and moved on to like a job with health insurance, I was like, oh, okay, it's time to, try to do something about whatever this weird pain is in my stomach and in my gut that I'm like constantly experiencing. So I made, multiple doctor's appointments and would try to explain what was happening, how, it just hurt all the time and it didn't matter really what I ate or what I drank. There was one time specifically I can remember like sitting down and I was just eating like raw baby carrots. And I was like, why is this? This is supposed to be healthy. Like, why is this hurting my stomach so bad? It just felt like as soon as food would hit my stomach, like it would just start like cramping up. And so I would explain all these to whatever doctor, I would see. And I don't want this to come off as like all doctors are awful, but it just seemed like there was just not answers being presented to me. And so I took multiple tests for testing for celiac disease, testing for ulcers. Like honestly, I was just praying that it would be ulcers. I'm like, so I could just have an answer of like why I'm having this pain all the time. But no, it was still negative, of course, for that. So finally, I made the decision, hundreds of dollars and a ton of appointments later, that I was like, maybe I just need to get an endoscopy done, which is, of course, when the doctors like couldn't find anything else wrong, they said, go through with this procedure and we'll get a little camera in there, and look around at your stomach lining and your esophagus and everything and just try to figure out what's going on. And so I went through with that, and still it just wasn't showing anything that anything was wrong. I remember specifically the like after care doctor that I went to see when we were reviewing my results. He said, well, your stomach looks, a little bit red and inflamed, but like that's pretty typical for any American. So like you don't need to be worrying about that. And that was kind of the first thing that I was like, I don't think that's an okay answer for like, you're telling me like my stomach is red and inflamed, but just kind of to accept that. And again, I'm sure not every doctor would have said that, but just those specific words, I was like, I don't think that's not really what I want to hear, that like there is something wrong, but there's no solution. So just deal with it. Obviously, as I'm sure both of you have experienced, and a lot of people watching, the constant like, well, nothing's wrong, but you're like, something's wrong though. Like, I know my body. Like, I don't think that it's supposed to normally feel like this. I don't think I'm supposed to be so low energy. I don't drink coffee. I don't do caffeine. I don't do Red Bull energy drinks. Like, that's just not something I ever got into. So I kind of was like, maybe that's why everyone else seems to have energy and I don't, because like all I drink is water, like, and anyway, and so still just no answers for what was going on there. And then this was like a couple months later, I was talking with a friend from work and was sharing with him what was going on with my stomach issues. And he just recommended to me a homeopathic medicine healer person. I don't know what they really call themselves, but he just recommended her. And so I went to see her, and she gave me like one or two little like supplement pill things to take that still didn't seem to help. Again, I wasn't changing my diet. Like I didn't feel like my diet was horrible, but I mean, who wants to admit that to themselves that their diet's horrible? So, and so taking those little supplements like didn't help still. And so I kind of was back to square one up. I've tried everything to kind of figure out what was going on. And still probably just thinking like it's probably just stress. I went from the stress of college to the stress of like planning a wedding to the stress of like being married, and it was and like all of these new life changes and moving to a new city. And I just kind of chalked it up to like, I guess that's just why I'm not sleeping well. And it could just be these life changes that were the reason why I was feeling this way all the time. So yeah, I guess that kind of leaves us with like what I was the answers, the areas where I was like trying to seek some sort of answer for why I was, just feeling so tired all the time and low energy, and just this ongoing chronic stomach pain all the time.
A lot of people, when they start to hear my story and, stories like yours from other people, are like, oh, wait, I thought I was
Mm,
alone. I thought they were just saying that to me and that no one else was
yeah.
experiencing this or going through this. And suddenly there's things like, okay, like, wait a second, I'm not alone. And I didn't really know or think that people will follow me or even like let alone like attempt some of the things that I would try. Like, why did you become interested in learning what I did, and to the point where you're like, okay, maybe I want to try this. So I'm curious to know, like, what was it that, what brought you in?
Yeah, totally. Um, so about a year ago, I was going through some pretty significant life changes, and it just allowed me the opportunity to kind of focus on myself again and start taking care of myself, emotionally, spiritually, and physically as well, and to start focusing on my health. And so, Jorge and I met 2 years, 2.5 years ago, I guess. And you had kind of been like planting little seeds along the way, of I think just what you had shared about your experience and kind of like your testimony. And that was like what really drew me to it because I didn't know. I mean, like I said, like I don't know that much about like gut health or like just medicinal things. Like I just was like, I'm just trusting that if the doctors know, like they've gone to school or, like someone wiser than I will like be able to tell me what's wrong. And so I think just you sharing your experience and like that's one of the reasons I'm like so happy to be here today to like share my experience. And like you said, I know there's going to be people out there who are watching now or will watch this that have had a similar experience of just kind of reaching your wits end, honestly, of like I've tried all of the conventional like ways for to figure out what's going on. And so I think it really was you just sharing your experience. And um, I don't know, also like when I first started learning about things like the minimalistic diet and hydration and minerals, like it did seem weird. Like something just kind of clicked in my brain of like, oh, like this makes sense. And I can't really explain like why I feel like it just clicked so easily. But again, maybe I was just in that time of life where like so many things were changing that I was like, well, what's one more change to, better my own health and my own experience and, my body and my life. And so I think that was definitely the biggest thing that like drew me into like having more of a deeper discussion. So like after kind of meeting you and talking just casually like talking about it, it took me a few months, but like finally like being able to set up time with you and Leah to really go more in depth about starting with the minimalistic diet, just kind of taking those little first steps and it's not about like throwing out everything in my pantry and just moving on to something else. Like it's about kind of making a transition. And I think you both were very upfront about the fact that you've been doing this for years and years. And so the perfectionist in me was like, I need to be at their level like 2 weeks from now. And that's just not going to happen. And so it was just a super encouraging experience, like getting started. And honestly, like I feel like I haven't looked back. Like I just can't there's like skills and tools that I know now that I feel like I wouldn't want to just like turn away from those and kind of go back to how I was before just because of, the results I've seen, like actually sleeping through the night and having energy during the day. And like my mood has improved so much because I'm actually sleeping. And Jorge sees me every day at work. So he knows what I was like before this and after. And, it's just like, why would I go back to just how I was living before? So I don't remember your original question, but I hope that I answered it.
Yeah, no, you definitely answered it, and it's leading to the next one. So, like, share what were some of the changes that you made,
Mm,
and what results did you experience as a result of making those changes?
yeah, I'll start with one of the things I learned, and I did the 5-day hydration challenge, and then I was part of the study group this past summer. And one of the biggest things that you two are so good about reminding us of is like, um, shoot, I lost my train of thought. I have it written down here. Yes, okay, so that the Beer Diet Project is a set of tools and of skills to help you make the right decision for your body and the healthiest decision for your body. And I feel like when I've tried like diet stuff in the past, I mean, those might work for other people, but like it was just really hard for me. Like I found them really restrictive. And with moving into Beer Diet Project, I just found it honestly very freeing because I've always had this kind of battle with food, of always like feeling guilty about what I was eating or feeling like I was eating too much or I wasn't eating the right thing. And my weight would fluctuate. And I just always, it didn't seem to matter what I ate. Like I always just had a negative mental reaction to it. And you can't just not eat. And so, how do I balance? Like, I need to nourish my body, but I don't want to feel guilty about every time that I eat. And so, I'm sure there's other people listening that will like relate to that. And I think that was the biggest thing for me, was learning about what was healthy for my body and not feeling guilty every time I sat down to eat a plate of food that was like delicious that I made at home. I didn't feel guilty about it. I didn't feel bloated after that. And so that was definitely the biggest thing, is viewing it. And this is how I describe it to my family and friends when opposition comes of, it's about making this lifestyle change, and it's about acquiring the tools and the skills to help you make the best choice for your body. It's not about like, cutting this out or that out, which like that's part of it. But when you just view the idea of like making a diet change in a negative way versus seeing it in a way that I was seeing it, it was very freeing and I felt so much better after doing it. That's like the way I kind of try to describe it to them. So definitely the biggest changes I made were getting my hydration, so my clean source of water. I have my water station here with my Crocs. I can get my water from natural grocers and make sure that I drink a gallon a day, and I put my minerals. I did bring show and tell, me. So I've got my ionic magnesium and my Soleil salt, and making sure I'm drinking that throughout the day. And I already drank a lot of water, but I definitely notice a difference between just drinking a lot of water from the water fountain at work versus drinking the clean water with the minerals in it. I definitely am not like getting up to go to the bathroom as much as I was in the past. And I just feel like, my body's able to use the water to like have energy throughout the day, versus in the past didn't necessarily feel like that. It just felt like I know I'm supposed to be drinking a lot of water, so that's what I'm doing, but I don't see the benefit of it necessarily. So the water with minerals, the healthy fats. So I have my other show and tell. Got my butter here, which was on sale at the store yesterday, so I stocked up. My avocado, or my coconut oil, which is my favorite for popping popcorn, so very delicious. And all my olive oil and my beef tallow. So I think implementing that has just made me feel so much more confident. Like I can sit down and like have popcorn with like butter and good kosher salt on it, and I don't feel guilty about enjoying that as a treat. Or I love eggs. I've had so many eggs in the past few months since I started a Beer Diet Project. It's just not even funny. But I feel less guilty about sitting down and eating those things because I know I have the tools to make the right decision about what I put in my body. So the healthy fats have been the biggest thing. And one of definitely one of the biggest things for me was something we learned. It was probably in the study group this past summer, was about all the bad oils and removing things like peanut oil, soybean oil, canola, vegetable, rapeseed oil. I'm sure there's so many others that I'm not even thinking of, but I think this is another area where I found it very freeing to go through Beer Diet Project, because I felt so much more in control about what I was putting in my body, that I was actually reading ingredient labels. And I should preface, I studied nutrition for 1 semester in college. So not an expert, but I was like, I know how to read a nutrition label, but I didn't really know what I was looking for necessarily. And so I felt like I had the tools now to look for those specific things and avoid anything that had those bad oils in them. And then obviously the, coconut oil and olive oil, and that I share. Like that's, what I use when I cook my foods now. Um, I think those are the biggest things, like that seemed to be a good kind of starting point for me. And then obviously I've been communicating with you guys if I'm like, I want to eat this, but I don't know, what's kind of the standard I should be looking for or that type of stuff. It's been really helpful to have you guys kind of mentor me through that as well. Just definitely invaluable. I just feel so much more equipped, going to the store to make the best decisions for myself. So
Very
yeah,
cool.
lots of good stuff.
Do you want to
Mhm.
share maybe what were some of your challenges that you had to overcome and,
Yeah,
what was that process like?
yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest challenge for me was the de-emphasis on carbs or on carbs that were unhealthy because like I was sharing earlier, like I definitely have in the past, like, and I think I'm overcoming this now, but an unhealthy relationship to food where like that's my vice. Like I, feel like I'm a very emotional eater and you guys know my story. It's been an emotional year. And so it was hard to kind of um, let go of just sugar and everything and all the processed and refined sugar. Like that's just what I want to eat. And so beginning Beer Diet Project and moving away from sugar and moving more towards protein and fat was definitely that was one of the harder things because there was a lot of things that, and again, I don't want to phrase it like I can't eat this and I can't eat this, but like at the beginning when I was trying to heal my gut and you were teaching about not feeding the unhealthy yeast that's in your gut. And so I don't want to be feeding that unhealthy yeast with all these carbs. And so kind of trying to really cut that out was the biggest thing for me. I think what made it worthwhile, I guess, or I don't know if it was like easier, but just starting with the minimalistic diet and seeing and when I say minimalistic diet, that means my beef organs, my cod liver oil, healthy fats, and my hydration with minerals, just for those who need a reminder. And um, when I started seeing the results from that, it was much more motivating for me to make these changes that were hard because I knew that like what the end result was going to be, that I was going to be feeling better. And definitely changing my mindset from I'm eating food because it tastes good and I need like this emotional release right now to this food is hurting my body when I eat it and it's not serving my body. It's actually feeding the bad bacteria that's in my gut. And so why would I want to I'm gonna like get emotional right now thinking about why would I want to continually feed the parts of my body that are like actively working against me and not helping me be the best version of Lydia that I can be, And so I think that was definitely one of the hardest things was giving up all that delicious sugar that I just, I think I'm sure a lot of Americans can relate to that. We've had the conversation in the past about how much sugar we all eat and it's just in everything. And I will say like the other thing that definitely has been not super hard to overcome, but just part of like the opposition that you face from friends or family of not that anyone was like hardcore like tearing me down but just interesting changes like exchanges that we have had of like I don't appreciate being talked down to like I'm trying to do what's best for my body and if you don't agree with that then like that's on you, but I'm trying to just do what I know is best for me and kind of figuring out how to navigate those types of conversations. And I know Jorge and I have had a lot of conversations about this, about how do you navigate times like that when you're doing what's best for you, but it's like, well, everyone else is eating this, or you're, at a potluck or whatever, and you can't just enjoy whatever's there. And I think the third thing that has helped me. Like I said, I can be very much a perfectionist. And so there's definitely times like I was in Texas all last week and didn't, have access to my normal diet that I would eat. And so I just kind of tried to make the best decisions that I could make, but there's still that part of me that's like, oh, it's not perfect. So like just feeling that kind of, what's the word? Just the battle like I was having in my brain of like, I'm trying to make the best decision, but I know it's not perfect. And overcoming that perfectionism has helped me approach Beer Diet Project more with curiosity and openness rather than like I said, expecting to be at y'all's level in like 2 weeks. Like it just doesn't work like that. And so I definitely had to overcome that perfectionism mindset that I just hold in everything in my life, but relating to food as well. So
What excites you about your future with, this new knowledge and, moving forward?
yeah. Oh, that's such a good question. I don't know. I feel like so many things excite me, like um just being in this past year of change that I've been through and being able to kind of make this change. And like I said, approaching it more from a place of curiosity and wanting to grow in the knowledge of this. And also, like I mentioned earlier, too, I don't know anything about like, medicine or gut stuff or nutrition. Like I said, I studied it for 1 semester and then promptly moved to art history, which is like not related to nutrition at all. So, um, I think it's just been super exciting to, like I said, have those tools and just build on those skills. And now that I've kind of have like my base diet, I'm looking forward to just learning kind of what's next. I love to bake and I love to cook. And so it's actually been really fun to figure out like, well, here are the things that, I know are good for my body, that these things agree with me. So like, how can I kind of put these together in interesting and unique combinations so I don't feel like I'm just eating the same thing over and over. And so I like the creativity of that it brings. And also, like I shared earlier, like just feeling I'm just excited about the freedom that I feel like this diet has, or this lifestyle change has given me, where I just don't feel so guilty all the time for, sitting down and eating a whole bowl of popcorn. It's like, well, if it has like my healthy fat on it and it has like good kosher salt, like I don't need to feel, obviously, like, in moderation, I get it, but like I don't need to feel as guilty as when I would eat the Orville Redenbacher out of the microwave, which I can just see Jorge cringing right now at that, even the idea of that. Which I feel, I'm getting there too. I'm like cringing out of that too. But anyway, I think just the freedom that it's given me, and as I kind of move on to a new stage of life, and it's been interesting, I think, pondering like, how is this going to affect like more serious relationships with people, or like when I have kids, like it's not like you just go back to how things were before. So kind of how do I continue to implement these things in just long-term future for the rest of my life? And like you said, you've been doing it for 11 plus years and there's still more to learn. So I just think the curiosity that I get to have as I'm learning about what I put in my body and what's healthy for me, like that really excites me. And I also feel like you've turned me into a little bit of evangelist. Like I have friends who are going through things that like I kind of see areas where specific tools or skills would help them. And so trying to, relay in like a loving way of, here's what's worked for me, and just sharing my experience and saying like, I think that this is something that could help you. Definitely. And I forgot to mention this earlier about the obstacles. One of the biggest obstacles I hear is it's too expensive. I can't do it. And I was just, with my brother-in-law and my sister last weekend, and that was, kind of their reaction. And so I think learning to overcome that of like, well, like you think that, but then at the same time, like the benefits outweigh, that what you think the cost really is. And so kind of getting to share with them too of the benefits that I've seen in my life and in my body. And it's just exciting to get to kind of hopefully pass on these tools and these skills to other hurting people, like, like I was hurting and confused and feeling deflated and just feeling like I just disillusioned, like I just have no idea what to even do. And so that excites me too, to just continue to, share the benefits of just making these little progressively, bigger changes in your lifestyle and how it benefits you and everyone around you too. I think having more energy, being in a better mood, like I feel like just such a different person than how I was before starting this lifestyle change. So,
Very cool. Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, thank you for sharing all of this. And I think that for the rest of the time, I want to just, riff and anything that you want to talk about. There's a couple of things that kind of stood out because I know we were talking earlier
Yeah.
about, cutting out sugar or like breads. Like
Yeah.
I'm huge on breads,
Right.
and or even like popcorn is another big one where I think what a lot of people sometimes don't understand about what I teach is that it's less restrictive in terms of you can't eat popcorn, you can't eat bread, but it's
Right.
rather more about if you're going to eat popcorn, make sure that you get good corn. Make sure that you understand the grain, the quality of the grain, that it's heirloom. Same thing with bread. It's not that you can't eat bread, but if you're going to eat bread, there's certain things that I look at, like, einkorn, bread. It has to be made with, real,
Got my
exactly.
show and tell. Sorry.
And preferably sourdough, depending. So like, I don't know, like maybe what have been some of those aha moments for you on that in that area?
Yeah, I love that. And that's totally how I try to describe Beer Diet Project with my family or friends who, are immediately like, I don't know, a little bit unsure about what you're saying. Is it's like they would say like, "Oh, Lydia can't eat that," and I'd say, "No, it's not that I can't eat that. It's just, it's about making if I'm going to eat that, like it needs to meet these certain standards or quality, in order to for me to feel good and partaking in that." So, I don't know. I mean, I did start, making my sourdough. My starter's name is Gerald, and so I feed Gerald every day and make my sourdough once a week. And it's just been nice to kind of add in some variety. Like I said, when I first started, it was a lot of meat and eggs, and that was like basically it. Maybe I'd throw in like an heirloom tomato if I was like just dying for some sort of fruit or vegetable. Because before this too, it's eating healthy is like only eating fruits and vegetables, and that's a little bit different than how it's approached in Beer Diet Project. So it was like my body was just craving something other than, protein and fat. And so, but anyway, and so starting to do the sourdough and learn more about that, and this is another thing that just gets me excited, like learning to brew my own kombucha, learning to make sourdough, like learning to, I hopefully want to learn how to, ferment sauerkraut and make that. Like there's just, like I mentioned, like I like to bake and to cook. And so there's lots of things that I'm just excited about, like learning these new ways of making food that I just never really would have made in the past. So I don't know about any aha moments, but um yeah, I think just like continuing to use the skills that I've learned to make the right decision. Like you're saying, if I want to eat bread, I want it to be, sourdough that I kind of know what it's been made with, probably that I've just made at my house. Like, those types of things have been aha moments. And I would definitely say the oil thing has been an aha moment. Like my brother-in-law he's a really amazing man, and he recently like got diagnosed with high blood pressure and celiac disease and just these things that they're trying to cut out all oil. And I come in and trying to explain, well, it's not all oil is bad for you. It just needs to be like these, certain things, and that maybe would help you in this area. And again, trying to speak graciously and lovingly and hoping that, I'll plant these little seeds that, eventually they would be curious enough to, want to know more. But yeah, I think those were like kind of the bigger aha moments, and the, like you were sharing too, just the social situations of like, I'm going to eat before I go, or I'll bring my own, or, there are definitely days where I'm like, we're going to my favorite restaurant. Like, it is what it is today, and just letting the perfectionism kind of go out the door that day. But, then getting back up on the horse, like it's never too late to,
Yeah.
you're never too far gone. Like you can always get back up and try again the next day or the next meal or the next snack that you have. Or, it's not like you ate this one thing and now you're done. So, yeah, lots of just really good aha moments and good learnings that I've definitely had the past few months.
I've tried everything, nothing
Yeah.
works. I guess it's just going to be another program that's not going to work.
Yeah.
What would you share
Yeah.
with them?
There's three things I'm thinking immediately, and I'm sure I'll forget one of them. But I would say the first thing is, yeah, just approaching it with a mindset of curiosity and knowing that you're not going to be perfect right off the bat. And I would say the second thing is like props to you for even trying something in the first place, or reading about this, or being curious about it. And every expert was once a beginner. Like no question is stupid, no question is too small. Like the amount of things I've asked for him, you could see our text chain. Like there's just, nothing is too small to just be curious about. Like this community for sure, like in our Facebook group, we want to be there to support each other and to help each other, and we're all learning this together. I think like Jorge has said, he's been learning all these things for 11 plus years, and there's still more to learn, and there's also still areas where we all fall short, areas where we still struggle with. For me, it's, cutting out bad refined sugar. Like when people bring donuts are like my biggest weakness. And when people bring those into work, either say a prayer and try my best to abstain, or just say, look, it is what it is. Like today is just, treat myself. And then I know that, we'll get back on the horse. But, just getting rid of that perfectionism mindset. And of course, I did forget the third thing. I think maybe I mixed it in with it too, so it's out there. But yeah, I think just the biggest thing too is learning. It's about learning skills, and it's not about the rigidity of don't eat this, you can't eat these things. Like I know you love these, but too bad you can never eat them for the rest of your life. It's about having the tools and the skills to learn if you want to eat these types of food, like how can you do it in a way that actually benefits your body and your taste buds, but is not, yeah, harming whatever you've got going on in your stomach or in your gut biome. um I think those are the biggest things. I think just starting at all is, the hardest thing. Like a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, right? And so just taking those first few steps, you're gonna feel it's gonna be like a little giraffe learning to walk, right? They get up and their legs are all wobbly and they don't really know what's happening, but then, eventually they kind of get their stride underneath them. And I think that's definitely how I felt starting this. I'm like, I just have no, I'm going to start these things, and it's going to be not perfect. I'm going to take a shot of Soleil salt water because I think that's what Jorge told me to do. And then it's not. And I feel terrible for the rest. Like, there's just like, you're going to make these silly little mistakes um, along the way. But yeah, it's just about continuing to learn and continuing to be curious. And yeah, I would say just taking those little steps at a time. And what Jorge is saying too about, the quality of not all like vitamins and supplements and magnesium and beef organs and all that good stuff is created equal. And so I definitely have built up, trust in Jorge and Leah, but they're not going to be there for I mean, I hope you're there for the rest of my life because I think you're amazing people, but um, they're not going to be there for the rest of my life. So at some point, like I'm going to have the skills to know what I'm looking for and what I'm looking to, not eat. And so, yeah, I think it's an ongoing learning process, I guess. And if I can do it, anyone can do it. I'll just leave it at that. Like you guys, yeah, it's really, really helped me in a season of life when I just needed this good change. And so I would just encourage anyone, like if you're on the fence about it, to I don't know, to like, I say, it's about little steps, but also I'm like, I want you to just dive in head first and just absorb all of the wisdom and knowledge. Like, guys, we can't let Jorge's 11 plus years of going through this go to waste. Like, we have to, learn from the mistakes of those who have come before us, and maybe that's me, where now you learn to like not take a shot of soy salt water because it's gonna not make you feel good, or learn that, Orville Redenbacher popcorn in the microwave is probably not the way to go, or, whatever it is. Like, we all in this community are there to learn from each other and to build each other up. And I think that's one of the most fun things I've learned about going through Beer Diet Project and being part of the Facebook group is just the fun community that's there and getting to meet new people who are, we're all there's a saying of like we're all in the same ocean, but we're in different boats. And so it feels like we're all in the same ocean of like trying to figure out what works best for our body, and we're all in our own boat of trying to figure out like what's the best route for us to take to get to the end goal, which is, feeling your best and looking your best and just having energy and sleeping well and having a healthy gut and, treating your body in a way that it was designed to be treated and giving it food that it was designed to process. And so it's just exciting to see other people in their other boats. And, we wave hi at each other as we're going along on in this ocean of our health journey. So yeah, that's my short TED talk of
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Lydia.
yeah.
And thank you
I'll
everyone
talk
else for tuning in.
Yeah, I'll talk to you guys later.
Have a
Talk
good
soon.
night.
Bye.